A recap here on CBS Sports HQ. Mike Tomlin told our Evan Washburn earlier this preseason that one of the things he admires about Aaron Rodgers is his joy of the game. He called it contagious at the start of training camp. I wonder how much Rodgers loved getting that win against his former team, one of several notable veteran quarterbacks suiting up in a new spot. And Rodgers telling us he felt pretty good after that win in the Steel City. Take a listen.
You spoke about the meeting with Aaron Glenn on McAfee a few months ago. Beating him, is there significance in that, since he basically told you to your face that he didn't think you were right for that team?
Yes, that's what he did.
So there's significance in beating him for you?
I was happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets.
Not holding anything back, our guy Aaron Rodgers, and for good reason, guys. 4 touchdowns today, 244 passing yards of 22 of 30 there. That is the most passing touchdowns in a Steelers debut. I mean, Danny, I'll come to you, our resident quarterback here. How much of that you think really was playing in his mind, and he went out there and did a good job?
He was highly motivated. But I also thought you saw a version of Aaron Rodgers which looks further and further removed from the Achilles injury, because the first half of last season he clearly was still hampered by it, but then towards the end you sort of saw vintage Aaron Rodgers. And I'm curious to know what you guys think, because I think the quarterback position is easier to play than it ever has been. As far as the rules of the game favor the passing game, you can't touch quarterbacks. You can't come anywhere near them. And if you've got 20 years of experience seeing every look that's ever been there, I just thought Aaron Rodgers looked so comfortable knowing exactly where to go with the football. There were some pressures that they tried to dial up, but he knew exactly which guy to go to, what was going to be the best option for him, and he looked totally comfortable within that pocket. And oh, by the way, that mobility, he's not going to ever be the Aaron Rodgers that he was as an MVP, but he's shown the ability to be able to escape pressure, move around just enough to buy a little bit of extra time. I think this is a reason I like the Steelers to be a playoff team.
About 10 years ago, I was at his locker in Green Bay, and he told me that 40 is the new 30. He might be right.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like Aaron Rodgers today. Some of those throws across the body, across the field, he had a lot of velocity on it. He hasn't lost any velocity, I don't think, or much at all on his fastball, and I think that's the biggest difference. You mentioned his ability to move around. Last year, for half the season, he could not move around. He was not a guy who could move like he normally does. Remember all that talk the year before, I'll be back in December, maybe I'll make it back. Well, he fooled everybody. He wasn't close to being back last year. And then when he got healthy at the end of last year, he looked like Aaron Rodgers. He threw the ball like Aaron Rodgers. He put up good numbers like Aaron Rodgers, and it's carried over to this team right now. He looked great today, and if he plays like that for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going to be in the playoff race.
It is his first game with 4 or more passing touchdowns and no interceptions since 2021 against the Bears. So that shows you, Pete, to your point, how he's taking those steps to look like the old Aaron Rodgers. Ran, from a front office perspective here, all we heard going into this, this big move with him going to Green Bay was he was toxic. He's a cancer. I don't know if we want him in the locker room, but here he is. He puts up a good performance, a historic performance as well. So talk to me about how he kind of quieted that narrative, or did he, in your opinion?
Well, I will say that I was one of those that didn't understand the fit because it just didn't feel like a Pittsburgh Steeler culture fit. But the one thing you know about this team and this organization is who they have at the leadership spot, and that's Mike Tomlin. And there's very few guys that get out of character in a Mike Tomlin-run building, because those guys eventually leave and become other people's problems.
Unless you're a receiver.
And they leave and become other people's problems. And to quote Bill Parcells, you'd rather be a year early than a year late.
True.
And so what Aaron Rodgers showed today, and first of all, let me rewind here, because we got to give Arthur Smith some credit. The way he managed him, the way he managed this offense, and was able, like Danny talked about, get Aaron on the move. And no, he's not moving like he used to, but that arm is still alive. And there's certain guys, there are certain humans, like the classic shooter. Steph Curry's going to always be able to shoot the jumper. If he's 50, 60, 70, Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys that's going to always be able to throw the ball. And he showed that today no matter what his age is. And the guys around him stepped up and made plays. The Calvin Austins, that one ball he had, contested ball 50-50. For a smaller guy, he went up and high-pointed the ball. And we know how much Aaron Rodgers loves to throw the back shoulder throw. And they were spot on and on the money with all his new receivers. So great job by Aaron today, and they should be encouraged.
I will say this, though, Haley, about your question about the criticism leadership that comes up. It's easy when you win.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody's going to love you when you win. What happens when they face a rough patch? What happens when a couple receivers drop the balls? That, I think, historically, because I think Aaron has very high expectations. The game comes easy to him. He makes these great plays. When the players around him don't step up and make those plays, that, I think, is when it's been more challenging for him to be that leadership role, to take a guy under his wing and kind of encourage him. He's been more like to call guys out publicly. And so we'll see. The other thing about Arthur Smith, that combination, he actually addressed that after the game, was talking about it, said, hey, I heard some of the criticism that I couldn't work with him, that there was going to be a clash there, a difference of mindset. And he said, nope. He said, he clearly heard all of the offseason criticism and was ready to shut everybody up.
Well, I'll say this, too. One thing about Aaron Rodgers and the flexibility he's had in other buildings to pick who his guys are, that's not happening in Pittsburgh. So when things do go bad, because they will hit a rough patch, he better figure it out and learn how to work with these guys, because they're not going to trade for Devontae Adams. They're not going to go trade for Allen Lazard and all of his guys. He's going to have to learn how to deal with DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin and the like. So he's going to have to figure that part out.
You mentioned as well some of the supporting cast, and we think the skill position's right, but Chris Boswell banging out a 60-yard field goal to win this one. That is the longest in franchise history. So good news there for the Steelers. Let's go to the other side of the matchup. And before we talk about Aaron Glenn's debut as the Jets head coach, let's hear from Aaron on what he thought in this first game.
Exciting game, but I'm not into moral victories. This was a game that, man, it was back and forth, a lot of fighting. I thought offensively we did not a lot of good things offensively that we can build on. The one thing to me that had to turn this game is, man, we can't have turnovers. We can't do it. We have to be a more disciplined team, right? There were some penalties that happened in that game that was true discipline issues. And, again, that's something that will be addressed, because you will not be on the field with this team if you're going to cause us to lose games.
Setting the tone early on there. The penalties a concern there. So obviously when it comes to Aaron Glenn, he's trying to run a tight ship. Pete, what'd you think about his debut?
Well, again, he's a defensive-minded coach, and the defense wasn't great, and that's the concern. You thought the defense would be a real strong suit of this team, and they didn't look like it today. So if you're Aaron Glenn and you come with a defensive pedigree, the first thing they look at is you. And so it's understandable that he's not happy with the way they played. And Aaron Glenn, he'll put it out there now. He's not going to hold his feelings back. He's going to put it out there.
He told Aaron Rodgers to go home after he flew him all the way across the country.
And then Aaron Rodgers beat him. So 1-0 for Aaron Rodgers the way it is right now. But I'm okay with Aaron Glenn calling his players out, and deservedly so for the way the defense played.
No doubt. I love that he called him out publicly. I think this is a great hire for the Jets. I still do. I think it was a rough loss. 7 penalties for 74 yards. He mentioned we're going to clean that up. He will hold his players accountable, but the thing I think players will appreciate about him, he holds himself accountable too. And every player, like, as long as if you keep that target on everybody in the building, which I think Aaron Glenn will, then players will respond to that type of coaching. When you get called out publicly, he's not afraid to call anybody out. But I think if you went back and said you controlled the time of possession 35 minutes to 25 minutes, if you had over 100 yards rushing in Breece Hall, I think you probably would have felt like you went out and won that game. But I think it's more alarming that defense did not come up to show, because that's going to be their calling card. And the fact they gave up 4 touchdown passes to Aaron Rodgers, that's one that's going to be tough to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Glenn is one of the better players that has played in this league, and just the ultimate competitor. So you wouldn't expect him to say anything less than no moral victories. However, my friend, the Jets scored 32 points.
Yeah,
and that's been a problem.
That's huge.
And so you should feel encouraged. Like Danny, you talked about, they had 182 yards on the ground. They had 394 yards of total offense, and they were 50% on third down. That is, you get this defense right, and you get this defense tailored to get some stops when you need them. They have enough on offense to squeak out some games. Not saying they're going to be a 10-9-win team, but they can be in some of these games and learn how to win these games, and that's what it's going to come. You're a first-time head coach, you're first time in this role. You're going to learn, and you got a bunch of new guys around you. A lot of holdovers from Robert Saleh's staff as well. But you have enough there to win these games. It's not going to always be pretty, but the Jets scored 32 points.
Yeah.
Does Justin Fields off to a good enough start to say, hey, maybe he can do some things with this offense? Because he made some throws today. You look at it and you go, okay. He looked like
Did he take a step forward, though? Because I know when he was playing for the Steelers a year ago, that was the thing, right, where everyone felt like the offense was stagnant with him behind center.
Well, it's still to be determined, but I thought he did some good things today.
He played good enough to win.
Yes,
That's all you want
yes,
to ask from
yes.
your young quarterback in his first start with this
Yep.
organization. He played well enough to win. And I think that's what the type of game that you're going to see from him throughout the season. They're going to work in the run game, work in his legs, not ask him to go out there and throw for 300-plus yards. If you can have that type of mindset and be within a field goal, I think you'll take that every time.
What'd you make of Justin Fields today?
All you needed him to do is progress.
Yep.
And he showed that he put in the work this offseason, and you saw it on the field today. Now he has to become consistent with the progress to lead this team to victories.
All right, so no moral victories for the
Hell
Jets,
no.
but a positive
thing.
step forward at the very least. We can all agree 32 points is certainly more than we expected them and more than what they did last year, so we always have progress. Unfortunately, for another team in the division, not so much. Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, no good today. We'll talk about it after the break.